In today's world, doctors rely on X-rays to diagnose a wide range of conditions, especially those related to bones. But not too long ago, these things were not possible without cutting a person open. The accidental discovery of X-rays is credited to Wilhelm Conrad Röntgen, who first identified these invisible rays, revolutionizing the field of medical imaging. A small-town boy, Röntgen was born on March 27, 1845, in the town of Lennep, Germany. He was the only child of Friedrich, a respected German textile merchant, and Charlotte, who was of Dutch heritage. When he was 3, his family moved to the Netherlands due to the political unrest in Germany. He later on studied at the Institute of Martinus Hermann van Doorn, a boarding school. Despite not being particularly good at schoolwork, Röntgen was skillful in building mechanical objects, which laid the foundation for his later achievements in science. In 1861, at the age of 16, he enrolled at the Utrecht Technical School, but after 2 years was expelled for a false accusation. One of his teachers intercepted an unflattering caricature of another teacher on the blackboard, which was drawn by someone else. As Röntgen was caught observing the caricature, the finger of suspicion was pointed at him. Despite being pressured to name the true artist, he chose to remain silent, leading to his expulsion by the school authorities. In 1865, he began studying physics at the University of Utrecht. However, due to his earlier expulsion, he was unable to obtain the necessary high school diploma, which prevented him from becoming a regular student. Undeterred, he discovered that he could enroll at the Federal Polytechnic School in Zurich, Switzerland. After passing the entrance exam, he completed a degree in mechanical engineering in 1868. During his studies in Zurich around 1866, Röntgen met Anna Bertha Ludwig at a cafe owned by her father. Anna, 6 years his senior, soon became a significant part of his life. However, their relationship faced opposition from Röntgen's father, who disapproved of the match due to the Röntgen family's higher economic standing. Despite this, the couple married on July 7, 1872. Although they never had biological children, they adopted Anna's 6-year-old niece in 1887 after the untimely death of Anna's brother. After graduating, Röntgen remained at the University of Zurich, where he took courses under the renowned experimenter and theoretical physicist, Dr. August Kundt. Under his guidance, Röntgen wrote his dissertation, Studies on Gases, for which he was awarded a doctorate in philosophy on June 22, 1869. Professor Kundt then invited him to stay on as an assistant in the physics department, a position that further honed his experimental skills. He then taught physics at several universities before becoming the chair of physics at the University of Gießen in 1879. In 1888, he was appointed to the same position at the University of Würzburg. It was around this time that his groundbreaking discovery happened. In 1895, when he was 50, he was studying the results of low-pressure gas on an electric current, which involved the use of a cathode ray tube. A cathode ray tube, or CRT, is an old-fashioned device that uses high voltage to shoot a stream of tiny electrons through a vacuum. These electrons hit a special screen, making it glow, creating pictures or patterns. This is the principle behind how TVs and computer monitors worked. Scientists in the past used CRTs extensively to study electricity and particles. On the 8th of November of that year, Röntgen was conducting experiments with a cathode ray tube in his dimly lit laboratory. As he played around with his setup, something unusual caught his attention, a faint green glow at the far end of his bench. He then traced the source of the light to a screen coated with barium platinocyanide. Intrigued, Röntgen shielded the tube with heavy black cardboard, expecting the glow to disappear. To his astonishment, the fluorescence persisted, even when he moved the screen further away, up to 9 feet. Determined to investigate, he placed various objects, including wood, notebooks, and other materials, between the tube and the screen. Yet, none of them could block the mysterious rays, and only caused very little dimming effect on the fluorescence. As cathode rays were known to have limited penetration through materials, Röntgen concluded that what he observed could not be cathode rays. Instead, the fluorescence was caused by a new type of invisible, highly penetrative radiation originating from the cathode ray tube. In subsequent experiments, he observed that objects of varying thickness placed in the path of the rays exhibited different levels of transparency when captured on a photographic plate. When he placed his own hand in the ray's path, he was amazed to see the bones clearly. Additionally, he was able to read the direction of a compass enclosed in a metal case. He kept his discovery a secret, retreating into his lab for several weeks, only coming out for meals as he studied the nature and properties of these rays. His wife later confessed that it was a dreadful time for her. Nonetheless, she supported him quietly, bringing him hot meals when he forgot to eat, and leaving him to focus on his work. Whenever he required assistance, she was there, offering her help with unwavering patience. On December 22, 1895, Röntgen conducted another experiment. He placed his wife's hand on a photographic plate and allowed the newly discovered rays to pass through it. The exposure lasted for 15 minutes, and the resulting image revealed the shadows of her hand's bones and her wedding ring, surrounded by the faint outline of her flesh. The flesh, being more permeable to the rays, cast a weaker shadow. This experiment confirmed for Röntgen that these invisible rays could pass through human flesh, but were blocked by denser materials like bone and metal. The image became one of the most iconic in history. Mrs. Röntgen famously remarked, "I have seen my death," as seeing the skeletal structure of her own hand likely felt unsettling and morbid. This was the first Röntgenogram ever taken, which Röntgen liked to call his shadow pictures. On December 28, 1895, he published his groundbreaking paper on a new kind of rays after 7 weeks of rigorous work in which he studied the properties of this novel radiation. He named them X-rays to emphasize their unknown nature. When asked about his thoughts at the moment of the discovery, he simply replied, "I didn't think. I investigated." When Röntgen announced his discovery, some scientists realized it had been observed earlier. In February 1890, American physicist Arthur Willis Goodspeed experimented with a Crookes tube at the University of Pennsylvania, unintentionally exposing photographic plates and coins to what would later be known as X-rays. He noticed a shadow on the developed image, but didn't recognize its significance and filed it away. In February 1896, during a lecture at the American Philosophical Society, Goodspeed stated, "We can claim no merit for the discovery, for no discovery was made." Heinrich Hertz's student and assistant, Philipp Lenard, also narrowly missed the discovery of X-rays, and later resented Röntgen being credited. Lenard's work with cathode rays laid important groundwork for the eventual discovery of X-rays. He developed a specialized vacuum tube with a thin aluminum window, known as the Lenard window, which allowed cathode rays to pass out of the tube. This innovation was crucial in studying the penetration of rays into air or other materials and unknowingly made it possible to observe phenomena related to X-rays. Lenard also conducted similar experiments using his cathode ray tube 7 years before Röntgen did, but the conditions were not ideal, and he only managed to produce soft X-rays. In subsequent experiments where he adjusted some variables, he was able to observe the fluorescence of the screen and the blackening of photographic plates, but failed to recognize their significance. Lenard's weakness in physical theory seemed to appear as the reason for his difficulty in translating his experimental results into discoveries. As evidenced by letters still in existence, Lenard was initially friendly to Röntgen immediately after the X-rays discovery, as Röntgen in fact gave Lenard due credit for his experiments and for his vacuum tube in his first communication. The extreme bitterness of Lenard, however, started growing when Röntgen started getting greater fame. This bitterness continued even after Röntgen's death in 1923. In a 1945 interview with Louis Etter, Lenard stated, "I am the mother of the X-rays. Just as a midwife is not responsible for the mechanism of birth, so was Röntgen not responsible for the discovery of the X-rays, which merely fell into his lap. Without me, the name Röntgen would be unknown." Röntgen was an opportunist who sensed that there was something to be found in experimenting with my tube, which he carried out with an eye to fame. I was always too modest and did not rush into print. In my letter to Röntgen, where I praised him for his great discovery, I thought he would reply that he really owed it all to me and my tube, but I waited for this acknowledgement from him in vain. False claims of priority and efforts to downplay the significance of his discovery began circulating as early as 1896. While these claims troubled Röntgen, he chose to ignore them with a philosophical attitude. As he expressed in a letter to his friend Ludwig Zender, "My work has received recognition from many quarters. This is worth a great deal to me, and I let the envious chatter be. I am not concerned about that." Despite the criticisms, it was clear that Röntgen was the first to investigate the remarkable penetrating power of these rays. Observe the strange shadows of bones on a fluorescent screen, and develop clear images due to refined experimental conditions. This enabled him to provide a thorough documentation and description of X-rays, as well as recognize their potential for medical imaging. His groundbreaking work and published findings undoubtedly earned him the credit he received. Long after Röntgen's time, it would be thoroughly figured that these X-rays resulted from these cathode rays striking a solid surface and releasing high-energy photons. Although Röntgen did not know the full mechanics of what was happening, his work laid the foundation for the development of modern radiology. In January 1896, Röntgen gave his first public presentation of the discovery before the Würzburg Physico-Medical Society, demonstrating the effect by creating an image of an attendee's hand. News of the discovery spread quickly, and X-ray devices soon became widely available. Within a year of Röntgen's announcement, the use of X-rays for diagnosis and therapy became an established practice in the medical field. One of the first medical applications of X-rays occurred in 1896, when John Francis Hall Edwards, a British doctor, used them to locate a needle embedded in a colleague's hand. Shortly after their discovery, the dangers of X-rays became apparent. In May 1896, Röntgen noticed hair loss, followed by skin toxicity. He had been holding a lead plate between his fingers while taking radiographs, which inadvertently helped protect him from radiation. Despite this, the radiation exposure at the time was still relatively high, as the risks were not yet fully understood. Fortunately, modern radiography uses only a fraction of the radiation doses that early X-ray subjects were exposed to. Advances in imaging technologies have drastically reduced the amount of radiation needed to capture X-ray images. In the past, exposure limits could reach as high as 10 rads per day, a level now deemed unacceptable. As our understanding of radiation's biological effects has grown, stricter exposure limits have been put in place, along with the use of safety tools like film badges, which monitor radiation exposure to ensure it remains within safe limits. It is no exaggeration to say that his discovery revolutionized the practice of medicine in ways Röntgen could never have anticipated. As a result, he received numerous accolades for his work, including the Rumford Medal and the Matteucci Medal in 1896, as well as the Elliott-Cresson Medal in 1897. In 1900, he was also awarded the Barnard Medal for meritorious service to science. That same year, the Bavarian government offered him the position of Chair of Physics and Director of the Physical Science Institute at the University of Munich, a prestigious promotion that he accepted. Most of his time was spent overseeing the physics department and teaching, as he had become a highly sought-after lecturer. Ultimately, in 1901, he won the first Nobel Prize in Physics award in recognition of the extraordinary services he has rendered by the discovery of the remarkable rays subsequently named after him. While the term Röntgen rays was initially used to honor Röntgen's contribution to science, over time, X-rays, the name provided by Röntgen, became the more commonly used term due to its simplicity and widespread adoption in both scientific and popular language. In addition to his awards, streets in several cities were named after him, and he was granted honorary doctorates and memberships in academic societies both in Germany and internationally. Despite his international fame, Röntgen remained humble and private, maintaining a deep love for nature. He spent many vacations at his summer home near the Bavarian Alps, enjoying mountaineering and outdoor expeditions. However, his peaceful lifestyle was marred by personal tragedy. 4 years after his wife's death due to an illness, Röntgen died in Munich on February 10, 1923, at the age of 77, from carcinoma of the intestine. His death was not attributed to his work with ionizing radiation because of the brief time he spent on those investigations and because he was one of the few pioneers in the field to routinely use protective lead shields. Today, Röntgen is widely regarded as a brilliant experimentalist who never sought honors or financial gain from his research. While he accepted an honorary doctorate in medicine from the University of Würzburg, he declined a title of nobility. Additionally, he donated the money he received with his Nobel Prize to the university. Moreover, he chose not to patent X-rays, ensuring that the world could freely benefit from his discovery. This decision solidified his legacy as a scientist dedicated to the public good. In 2004, the International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry named element 111 Röntgenium after him. The naming convention aligns with the tradition of honoring individuals whose discoveries or contributions have had a profound impact on the scientific world. As we marvel at the advancements in medical imaging, it's worth remembering the small-town boy whose curiosity, perseverance, and ingenuity illuminated the unseen world. Wilhelm Röntgen's legacy reminds us of the power of science to transform our understanding of the world and ourselves.